A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you all to the second lecture of Professor A.K. Kamal Memorial Lecture Series, which is organized by the Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, IIT Roorkee. So let me, on behalf of the department and IIT Roorkee, let me extend a hearty and warm welcome to our distinguished speaker, Professor V. Ramgopal Rao, Director, IIT Delhi, all the special invitees, and all the participants to the second lecture in continuation to the A.K. Kamal Memorial Lecture Series, which was successfully inaugurated in the year 2019. So I would like to request uh, Professor Professor to come on the stage. So Professor Rao and Professor Chaturvedi and Sudev Das Gupta. This event is being conducted in the memory of Professor A.K. Kamal, an eminent and profound researcher and the founder head of the Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, IIT Roorkee. So we greatly look forward to listen to the viewpoints of our eminent speaker, Professor Rao, who will be presenting his talk on the topic Reinventing IITs for Atmanirbhar Bharat. So before the proceedings, I would like to request Professor A.K. Chaturvedi, Director, IIT Roorkee, to felicitate our distinguished speaker, Professor Rao. We also request Professor Sudev Das Gupta, head of the ECE department, to felicitate Professor Chaturvedi. Thank you, sir. We are honored to have you all here. I'm sure with such an august gathering, we would be able to achieve our aim of learning and gaining knowledge. Now, for the proceedings, I would like to invite Professor N.P. Pathak to read out the biography of Professor A.K. Kamal.
So, very good morning to all of you. Professor Rao, Professor Chaturvedi, Professor Das Gupta, all the faculty members of ELC department and students. I am honored to read out the biography of Professor Aditya Kumar Kamal, who is the founder chairman of Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, IIT Roorkee. Professor Aditya Kumar Kamal was born in Kairana village of Muzaffarnagar district of Uttar Pradesh. He received his bachelor's degree in physics from Banaras Hindu University and master's degree in science from University of Allahabad. He also holds a master's degree in electronics and communication engineering from Indian Institute of Sciences, Bangalore. He immigrated to England in early 1950s and worked as an engineer at Marconi Wireless and Telegraph Company, making advancements in radar technology. He then enrolled in the doctoral program at the prestigious Sorbonne University of Paris and enrolled in classes to learn French so that he could complete his thesis, written and presented in French, towards a PhD in electrical engineering. He has worked as a professor at Purdue University in W. Lafayette, Indiana, and later at University of South Carolina. He sharpened his skills with industry assignments during the summers with leading organizations such as Bell Labs, Varian Associates, Center for Applied Physics at Johns Hopkins University, and MIT Lincoln Labs. At this point in his career, he decided to act on his desire to give back to his own country and decided to move back to India with the vision of creating a center of education related to electronics and communication engineering. He landed at University of Roorkee. As the chairman of this newly created Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, he was successful in raising capital to construct a state-of-the-art education and research facility, including a 15-story communication tower. After a substantial tenure at University of Roorkee, he left India and took on a visiting assignment at Engineering University, Ecole Polytechnic in Grenoble, France. Following that, he moved to Boston as a professor at Boston University. Professor Kamal continued to defy the odds and worked all the way into his 90s. He had a passion for life and impeccable work ethic. The last day he worked as a chief engineer in Arcon Corporation at the age of 92 was the day before he passed away, April 18, 2018. He is survived by his wife Saroj Kamal, daughter Amita Sharma, and two sons Pankaj and Arvind Kamal. Professor Kamal was an avid reader, loved technology and tinkering with the latest devices. I am looking forward for the second lecture in A.K. Kamal Memorial Lecture series. Thank you all.
We have with us Mr. Pankaj Kamal, son of Professor A.K. Kamal, who will be joining with us online from US. So I would like to request Mr. Pankaj Kamal to speak a few words.
Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you, Professor Pathak, for that great bio. And as he mentioned, I am Pankaj Kamal. I'm the older son of Professor Aditya Kamal. I'm based in Silicon Valley. Can you, okay? Are you able to hear me? Okay, let's try this. Hello? Are you able to hear me?
Sir, am I audible to you?
Yes.
We cannot hear you, just tell that.
Sir, we can't hear you.
Sure, what do I support? Please muted, I think. So you can
How about now? Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir. Now we can hear you.
Okay, good. Yeah, I did not change anything from my side. Sorry about the delay here. Thank you once again for having me on. As I mentioned, I'm Pankaj Kamal. I'm the older son of Professor Aditya Kamal, based in Silicon Valley, right outside of San Francisco. So on behalf of my mother, Mrs. Saroj Kamal, my sister Amita, my brother Arvind, we want to say how grateful we are to Director Chaturvedi, to Professor Das Gupta, and the rest of the IIT Roorkee staff for memorializing my father and his deep passion and desire to promote higher education in India. As very young children, we moved with our parents from US to Roorkee when my father wanted to come back to India to build the electronics and communication engineering department, including the construction of the buildings plus the communication tower. That tower took a long time to build, but as I grew taller, the electronics tower was growing taller as well. And one day, of course, it was completed. But most important, more important than those visible landmarks were the fact that he expanded the curriculum with more teaching staff to come in to support much larger batches of students for graduate, postgraduate, and doctoral education. However, like most educators, what made my father the happiest and gave him the most pride was when he met somebody who was once a student at the department, had now progressed into their career in engineering or onwards. And he would always say, hey, that was my student, he was my student, or she was my student. And that was what made him the most proud. I do want to say it is our honor to have Professor Ramgopal Rao, Director of IIT Delhi, to lead this particular A.K. Kamal Memorial Lecture session. And I do thank you for the opportunity to say a few words today. God bless you all.
Thank you for sharing your memories. Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing your memories, and we look forward to you and your family joining us in the subsequent lecture series. So, thank you, sir. Moving ahead with the program, now we will have the lecture session by Professor Rao. So before that, before starting the session, I would like to kindly request Professor Sanjeev Manhas to introduce the speakers.
Good morning, all. Good morning, Professor Rao, Professor Chaturvedi, Professor Dasgupta, fellow colleagues and students. I am indeed honored to read out biography of Professor Ramgopal Rao. It is indeed a good opportunity that Professor Rao, Director IIT Delhi, is with us to deliver a talk on reinventing IITs for Atmanirbhar Bharat. Let me briefly read out his biography. Professor Rao is currently Director of IIT Delhi before joining IIT Delhi as the Director in April 2016. Professor Rao served as P.K. Kelkar Chair Professor for Nanoelectronics in the Department of Electrical Engineering and as the Chief Investigator for the Center of Excellence in Nanoelectronics project at IIT Bombay. Professor Rao has over 480 research publications in the area of nanoscale devices, nanoelectronics, and is an inventor on 49 patents and patent applications, which include 18 issued US patents. 13 of his patents have been licensed to industries for commercialization. Professor Rao is a co-founder of two deep technology startups at IIT Bombay, NanoSniff and SoilSense, which are developing products and of relevance to society. Professor Rao is a fellow of IEEE, fellow of the Indian National Academy of Engineering, the fellow of Indian Academy of Sciences and National Academy of Sciences, and also fellow of Indian National Science Academy. Professor Rao's research and leadership contributions have been recognized with over 30 awards and honors in the country and abroad. He is a recipient of 3 honorary doctorates. The recognitions of Professor Rao received include the Shanti Sabhu Bhatnagar Prize in Engineering Sciences, Infosys Prize, IEEE EDS Education Award, Excellence in Research Awards from IIT Bombay, DAE DIDO Award, Swarn Jayanti Fellowship Award from the Department of Science and Technology, IBM Faculty Award, Best Research Award from the Intel Asia Academic Forum, Techno Visionary Award from the Indian Semiconductor Association, J.C. Bose National Fellowship, among many others. Professor Rao was an editor for the IEEE Transaction on Electronics Devices during year 2003 to 2012 for CMOS devices and technology area, and currently serves on the editorial advisory board of ACS Nanolectures, a leading international journal in the area of nanotechnology. He is also a distinguished lecturer of IEEE Electron Device Society and interacts very closely with many semiconductor industries, both in India and abroad. Now I welcome Professor Rao to please kindly deliver his talk. Thank you.
It's okay.
No, without column,
That's okay. I will use this.
Okay, so good morning still. And I'd like to thank Professor A.K. Chaturvedi and of course the head of department, Professor Sudev Dasgupta, for inviting me for the A.K. Kamal lecture. Very happy to be here. I see from the biography of Professor A.K. Kamal that he was a very distinguished kind of a researcher and at least an institution builder. The department, I notice, owes a lot to what he had done in the initial stages. I will. My talk is very general, though I will speak about what I have been doing, but I will, keep it a little general in. Maybe I'll use the UI pointer, laser pointer. You have that? Here, it can possible, then I can use what appear there. This is better. Okay, that's all right. Okay, so thank you. And so before I talk about what about overall about my talk and all that, I just wanted to give you this perspective. If you look at the higher education in India, this is something I have taken from all official sources. So these numbers are all correct. So we have today about 1,043 universities, and if you look at it, the institutions of national importance, which are what we all come under, the IIT, FISER, all of us. So there are 135 of them. So these are our most premium kind of premier kind of institutions. And there are, of course, so many other types of universities, and I think it has got all very complicated. I can tell you that I don't think anybody understands the difference between what is deemed to be university and a deemed university. And recently there was one of the countries in the world, they wanted all degrees to be approved by some agency, and so Indian government or the ministry was trying to explain to them the different types of universities. Even they also got confused. So that is what it has become now. I think we have complicated the higher education system as much as it can be. So I think now we need to untangle and see what more we can do about it. But having said that, I think we have come a long way. At the time of independence, there were, I am told, about 15 universities, and now we have 1,000 universities. I think India has made a huge progress. And if you also look at, the male-female ratio, which is very healthy. In fact, we don't, being in IITs, we think that it is bad. I can understand. So we somehow think that we don't have enough, a good gender ratio, but it's not true. At the national level, in the higher educational system, it's almost 50-50. So we have 50% male, 50% female, which is pretty good for a country like India, which is all, people complain, the patriarchal society and all that. So which is a healthy ratio. And if you also look at the student enrollment in our higher educational institutions, one number which is also interesting is the PhDs. So we have about 200,000 PhD students in our universities. I think that's again can be better. But one interesting fact is also the cumulative, that aggregate growth is 10%. So we are growing every year at the rate of 10%, which is again a very healthy ratio. And overall in higher education, we have about 3.85 crore students. That is what 38 lakh, 53,000 students. Yeah, no, 3.8 crore, 3 crores 85 lakh students. That's 38 million students right now in our higher educational system. And that total number is growing at 2.2%, but the PhD rate is about 10%, which is, so there is more and more research coming out of our institutions because we have so many more PhD students. And the current gross enrollment ratio in higher education is 27.1%. What it means is only 1 in 4 students, is actually coming to the higher education system. So that government of India is now trying to increase. If you have noticed the new education policy, they are saying 50% by 2035. So in another 15 years, we need to double the intake in our higher education system. So I think that's a steep target, I would think, considering the amount of money we are spending in higher education, but that is something that needs to happen. So we have 23 IITs. The first 5 IITs got established in the 10-year window. The youngest among the older IITs is IIT Delhi, but we have the oldest, 1951, is IIT Kharagpur. So in the 10-year period, we had these 5 IITs, and after that, we have had multiple institutions. So today there are 23 IITs. And then if you look at the current status of Indian R&D, India is indeed doing very well in terms of research. I'm not even counting those papers in predatory journals and all that. Even if you keep it aside, just in Scopus, Web of Science kind of journals, as listed by the National Research Foundation US, the National Science Foundation US, India is currently ranked 3rd in the world. China comes first, then comes US, then comes India. So it's not very bad. And we are also, in terms of the world share of publications, 5.31% for India, 20% for China, and 16% for the US. And I think our share could have been better, but this, not considering that, still we are at the 3rd position. All other countries are behind us in a way. And India is also one of the fastest growing countries in terms of scientific publications because, as I told you, 10% growth in PhD students. So they are all writing papers. So we are also growing it almost like 11% in terms of scientific publications, which is as compared to the world average, 4%. We're again publishing good papers. I think these are all, like I said, not considering those predatory kind of journals. So I think we should be proud of this fact, but we are not spending enough money. I think our expenditure on higher education has been stuck at that 0.6 to 0.7% of GDP. We should be spending much more than that. But 0.6 to 0.7% of GDP, is what goes to MHRD as the budget. And but this is an interesting figure. Somebody actually looked at the total number of papers written to the total amount of money spent by these institutions in higher education and normalize that. So India ranks number 1 per dollar spent. How many papers you can write? So Indians can write more papers per dollar than anybody in the world. So I think so we are the greatest optimizers. Give us money, we will write papers. I think that is never an issue for us. And no wonder, our students are the most preferred postdocs everywhere where it comes to writing papers. So I think which is again pretty good. And but I think one thing which everybody is complaining now, including government to many, is that though publications are happening, the impact and the translation kind of a research we are very poor at. The knowledge to wealth translation is not happening as much as we would have liked. So while we have become experts at converting funds given to us into knowledge, but we are very poor at converting that knowledge back into funds. So as a result, the thing is not very circular. Why don't you come here? So as a result, the money that is going into the system is not, in a way giving returns other than publications. So that is one major concern that government of India now everybody is expressing. And but I think that is where this has to be the solution to that problem, because we are not focused enough on societal problems, which is one of the major issues. So societal problems need to become projects in our higher educational system. So I have always strongly believed in that. It's not just that I am preaching as a director. I will also show you that for the past almost like 20 years now, this is how I have been conducting my research, and I think that can yield a lot of good results. And so I will also show you how it can be done. And in fact, the new education policy, which is where we're all talking about, and I've also written articles in newspapers on that, is I call it our moral movement. Now, what is this moral movement? If you look at it, as I said, last 10 years, our HEIs, higher educational institutions, are publishing good quality papers in good journals all over the world. And but the biggest challenge is our R&D in academic institutions is still primarily driven by the North American and European models. Something starts there, we pick it up, and then if they have written 2 papers, we write 10 more papers. And that kind of research, we do pretty much. And but this is one thing that our R&D is still done in that fashion. But it's not that US suddenly became a world power in terms of scientific knowledge. In mid 19th century, the US were also following England and Germany. Their universities were exactly like our universities. They whatever happens in England and Germany, they used to pick up those topics and start doing research. And in those days, the classics, theology, natural sciences were the focus areas in England and Germany. If you look at all the Nobel Prizes and all that, at that time, England and Germany were the rulers of the world, and US was like what India is. So this was the situation in US until the mid 19th century. So what changed for the US was this Morrill Act in 1862, when Morrill is the senator, after whom this act is known as. So what this act basically said was, this is known as the land grant university model. And under the land grant university act, they said that if universities focus on such branches of learning as are related to agriculture and the mechanic arts, then they will receive in return land from the concerned governments and also all support from the government. So they tried to orient their university system to work on societal problems in return for any favors from the governments there. And that was one thing which changed things for the US. And if you see many universities, all the top universities in the US have all been created as land grant universities, meaning they are saying that we will work towards solving the problems of the society. If you see Texas A&M, what does it A&M stand for? That actually is agriculture and the mechanic arts. And almost any top university you name, they all have been created as the land grant universities. And that is exactly what our NEP should do for us. And if you read the NEP document, it's a very well written document because it's written by good people. And the implementation is something, of course, we need to ensure it's all done the way it has been written. But the document actually reads, what you want to hear. Everything is perfect in the document. And what the document also says is, so that is what they are saying. Connect with the societal problems. Let our universities develop solutions to all these problems. If I look at all our research right now, I would call it more like solution looking for a problem. So we are developing lots of solutions, lot of research happens, but we are trying to see where can I apply that solution. So all our research, I would classify it as solutions which are looking for a problem. I think what we also need to do at some point is solutions to a problem. That somebody gives you a problem and then you find solutions for that. But that is also, it has to do with the way the Indian funding system goes. Right now, how do you receive funding? You imagine your own problem, from whatever source it is, and then you go to DST or SERB with your proposal and you get funded. So DST, SERB doesn't have any problems of their own because it's just a science and technology ministry. The real problems lie with the allied ministries. For example, agriculture. They know the problems of farmers. They will have tons of projects to give, but they don't have any funding schemes. To get money from agricultural university, you have to know the secretary, go and do so many things. And when there is a good secretary, you might receive some money. When the secretary changes, everything is gone. So because they don't have any structured ways to interact with the universities. The same is true of our Ministry of Roads, Ministry of Heavy Industries. Any ministry you see, they have no structured ways to engage the academia. The only ministry which is good at engaging with academia is DST, but they don't have any problems of their own. And if you are in Delhi, you realize that interministerial collaborations are as difficult as our interdepartmental collaboration. So they never interact with each other. And so as a result, now we have completely disconnected the problems to the solutions to the academia, and everybody works in a silo. That has been the biggest challenge. Government of India tried to address it to the imprint model. Some of you who are aware of it, imprint, when it was launched by the Smriti Irani's time, she actually got all these ministries together and she said, now we will collect our problems and gather funds and then fund academia. That was a very noble kind of an initiative. But then Our term got over, the secretaries changed, so now we are struggling what imprint is. And I was speaking with some of you. That was a very nice kind of an initiative. But that's because many of these ministries which are dealing with the day-to-day kind of issues in the society, they have no structured way of interacting with the academia. That has been the biggest challenge. But that is also something which NRF is trying to address it. The funds, problems, and talent, bringing all of that together. If you read the new education policy, one is talking about National Research Foundation. The National Research Foundation is supposed to be doing that. They are the ones who connect all the ministries and academia, and that way receive funds from the ministries along with the problem statements, and then engage academia to solve the problems. I think if we can do that at the national level, I personally feel our academia can really become, another 50 to 100 years from now, we will be the world leaders like what we look at US right now. I think that has to happen at some point, and everybody is talking about it, and I'm sure at some point that will also happen. If you look at NEP, NEP is a very nice document to talk about, to read actually. Our another problem is the fragmented higher education system. For whatever reason it is, after independence, when we wanted to create these institutions of learning of the best types like the IITs and all that, we have fragmented the education. You want to do engineering, you created IITs. You want to do medicine, AIMS. You want to do management, go to IIMs. Now you want to do science, you go to ICERs. And you want to do agriculture, they have their own institutions. I think this fragmented thing is what is hurting us now when we want to provide a complete solution to a problem. Because problems don't have a discipline. If you want to double the farmer's income, what discipline does it come under? Everybody needs to work together to actually address the problem. And I worked on some of these problem statements. I needed at least 7 departments to be involved in developing a complete product. And that often becomes difficult to bring so many people with such diverse backgrounds together. I think what we need, therefore, the NEP talks about multidisciplinary universities. They are now saying that there can't be just agriculture universities. They should also have engineering disciplines. We can't have just engineering institutions. They should also have medical faculty. I think that is what, over a period of time, if you can do that, if we can make our institutions more comprehensive, I think we will be able to address some of these problems, more effectively. And that is also the place where how we will become in a way more effective in terms of delivering the complete solution to these problems. And I always say that R&D is research and development, but it also needs to be relevance and delivery. So that if our research becomes relevant, and if we also, once you find a solution, if I can take it to the society, through some mechanism, then you would become more effective. Otherwise, our research, is mostly visible to the peers, because you would have published a paper and you would be very well known among the scientific community, but nobody in the society would have ever heard about you, because none of it would have reached anybody in any country kind of thing. So I think that is something that at some point needs to change. Internationalization is also very important. One of the reasons why our institutions don't have any good international ranking today, to me, at the heart of it is this internationalization problem. We have always been very inward looking in terms of that, and suddenly now we want to be known worldwide. It's not going to happen. So we have to do certain things, if you want to improve our things. And international faculty is one thing, and also too much of control now. At least IITs are slightly better, but you go to universities, I think they are almost on the verge of extinction right now, the way we are dealing with these universities. And the gross enrollment ratio, going up, the multiple bodies, even NRF talks about consolidation of regulatory bodies, and from studying to learning, flexible curriculum, credit bank. I think NEP is a solution to all our problems. So that's why I call NEP is our moral movement. And in a way, implementing NEP in the right spirit will solve all of our problems. And I hope that someday, sometime in the future, all of that will actually happen. Even international rankings, I thought, since we are all people who are often defending on TV channels and social media everywhere, why not a single Indian institute is among top 100? Why not a single institute is among top 300, depending on which ranking you are looking at? I think, you need to have a perspective, because we are the people who are answerable. And I will give you the brief perspective here. If you look at the rankings here, there are 6 parameters. The QS ranking is what most of us are participating. There are 6 parameters: academic reputation, employer reputation. This is basically a reputation. So the 50% of weightage is your reputation, meaning they send a questionnaire to somebody in Japan, and that Japanese guy is supposed to use a drop-down menu and choose IIT Roorkee as the best institute over MIT, Stanford, Berkeley, Tokyo Institute, and everything. And if more and more people choose IIT Roorkee as a top institute, then your ranking will actually go up. So reputation-based ranking is just that they send that questionnaire to lots of people all over the world, and so they, using a drop-down menu, pick up those universities. For anybody in Japan to pick up any of our institutions, first of all, they need to know what is Roorkee, and they need to know, that India does science, and many of them think we're all still, we go to offices on elephants and other things. So I think for these guys to look at India as a knowledge superpower with great institutions, is still a long way to go. And 50% of weightage is as simple as somebody putting your name ahead of all these other known kind of names. So that is what. And then faculty student ratio, you get 20% weightage. The citations per faculty. So these are real numbers. Now you provide from for your institution, and this they take it from the Scopus. They have a tie-up with Elsevier, and Elsevier provides them that particular data. Proportion of international students, proportion of international faculty. Now I have chosen 3 institutions here: IIT Delhi, because I know those numbers, and IISc, which is we know is our top research institute, and the third one is a 50th ranked university in Europe. So these are real numbers. You can actually get them from the QS website. I have not made up anything here. Academic reputation, IIT Delhi gets 45. They are all out of 100 marks. 45.8 out of 100. IISc gets less than IIT Delhi. Why should IISc reputation be less than IIT Delhi? Because IITs, at least thanks to our alumni, many people know us. IISc, because they have such a tiny alumni size, nobody knows them. Many of them do PhDs and stay in the country. But IISc reputation, according to these people, is less than IIT Delhi. And then the 50th ranked university, 84.5 out of 100, because it's in a European rich country. And obviously, if something is in that country, something has to be good. And something is in India cannot be as good. That's a kind of a perception. The second thing is the faculty-student ratio. I think that's why, in fact, Professor Ajit Chaturvedi's time, I see that the entire the electronics department, every second faculty member is somebody who has joined in the last 5 years. In IIT Delhi, for example, every third faculty member in the institute is somebody who has joined in the last 5 years. And that's because we are aggressively recruiting faculty. We were, now 4 years ago, we were actually getting 0. This number was actually a 0, because if your faculty student ratio is below 1:15, you get 0. And if it is above, if it is above 1:15, you get 0. If it is below 1:15, you get some points. And now that we have aggressively recruited faculty, we are beginning to get some marks here. And that number was 0, 4 years ago. And the IISc, 48.8, they still don't have enough faculty according to them. And this particular university is 94.5 out of 100. Why? Because for us, who is a faculty member? An assistant professor is a faculty member. For them, anybody who goes to the classroom to teach students is a faculty member. MIT faculty student ratio is 1:3, according to the QS, this ranking data. I actually showed them the numbers. You go to MIT webpage, find out how many faculty MIT has, how many students MIT has. MIT has about, I quoted that number to somebody recently, about 750 faculty who are like our assistant associate professors. They have exactly like some 12,000 kind of students. And IIT Delhi has exactly similar numbers. Now, if you add our postdocs, about 700 faculty, 11,000 students. IIT Delhi gets 30 marks, whereas MIT gets 100 out of 100. So for faculty student ratio. Similar students, similar number of faculty, they get 100, we get 30. I actually asked the QS guys, why is it so? Is it, but you are, MIT is 1:3. I said, but why is it 1:3? He said, go to their web pages and find it. But for them, because they count all their graduate research assistants as faculty, whereas we are being very fair and truthful. For us, we don't do that. And so they are saying, why don't you show that? And so this is a discussion that we are having, but this is the fact of the matter right now. We need to basically recruit more faculty. So this is it. And citations per faculty scopus, this is nothing. This is completely objective. IIT Delhi gets, this is, remember, citations per faculty is per faculty. So therefore, it's normalized to the number of faculty. and it's 70, right, for IIT Delhi. This number was about 90 4 years ago, but we recruited 200 faculty. Now that number came down to 70. So nothing has changed. If you, but then if since we have recruited 200 faculty, we are getting some points here, but we are losing here. So therefore, it's a zero sum kind of a game. And IISc, terrific, 100 out of 100. And there are only 6 institutions in the world which get 100 out of 100 for the citations, and IISc is one of them. We should be proud of our own institute. What about this particular university in Germany, which is 50th rank, 27.2, which is much below in terms of research compared to any of our kind of an university. And but though we are not doing all that great research, but their reputation is so high. IISc kind of a place doing such a great thing is 34.2. I think that is the truth about rankings. What about employer reputation? IIT Delhi is 70.8, IISc is 19.2. These guys think that IISc graduates don't get any jobs, or even if they take up a job, the employers are not happy with IISc graduates. All our faculty members were all employers of IISc graduates. They should at least ask us, how good are these kind of people. But for some reason, they think that IISc employability reputation is as low as 19.2. The poor institute is struggling, with the rankings. What about this university? 97.6. Proportion of international students, and here we actually failed the test. I mean, IIT Delhi gets 1.2 out of 100, 1.8 out of 100, 91.2 out of 100. Remember, this university is in Europe. If you are in Germany, somebody coming from Australia becomes a foreigner. Austria becomes a foreigner for you. Whereas for India, it has to be an external non-Indian passport holder. So it's very unfair for us. And so here again, we don't have anything, but this university scores here. So you can, this is the real story about ranking. So now you make up your own mind why we are ranked at whatever we are, and what we need to do if we want to improve our ranking. If you are running an institute, what would you do? Now, you would of course recruit faculty, but if you recruit faculty, this will go down. So what do we need to do then? Because if you recruit too many faculty, the citations per faculty count will become worse. So you need to recruit faculty and make them productive in the system. So at IIT Delhi, we looked at all the data. If a faculty member joins, how much time does it take for the faculty member to write a first, public paper with the IIT Delhi affiliation? Unfortunately, we don't have proper infrastructure. It takes about 2 years. That's average time before somebody becomes productive. And then we said, can we improve that? So now at IIT Delhi, we have started central research facilities. We started central laboratories. If you are a bio faculty, we said, by the time you establish your lab, you are already 18 months or 2 years. So instead, we will have central labs where you go and start your research from the day after you join the institute. So now getting our young faculty productive in the shortest possible time is very important if you, want to figure in that ranking. Otherwise, people come, then you start your rankings actually keep going down if they are not productive, because they have to write papers, and these papers need to be cited by somebody else. So there is a time constant involved there, and so that's very important for us. What else we need to do? We need to admit more international students. We need to have more international faculty. So that is one thing where we are all doing it. But government of India, eased all those restrictions only about 3 years ago. Until that time, for an IIT faculty member coming from abroad, he or she wouldn't even get the visa. Why they wouldn't get the visa? For getting Indian visa, their salary needs to be above a certain threshold. And our assistant professor salaries are not above that threshold. So therefore, if you admit, if you appoint some international scholar as a faculty member, the person will not even get a visa in India. That was the kind of a rule. And for that rule to change, and all that has taken, some time. So now we can recruit them, but it takes time. Why would anybody, the best people, we don't want to lower our bar just because, somebody holds a non-Indian passport. They need to be as good as the people we are recruiting. And for these people to not take up a job in their country, come to India and join IITs, I think takes time. And international students, a similar kind of a story. So this is about rankings. And in fact, the international footprint is something which is very important, because that is also something that provides you that perception. If IIT Delhi, for example, had a campus in Saudi Arabia, or IIT Delhi had campuses in multiple countries, people in those countries will get to know, because we would have done anything that we do at a certain quality, people would have come to know about these institutions, and then they would have, given us a better perception. So I think IITs now need to develop international footprint. That is very important. From IIT Delhi, we have submitted 2 proposals to Government of India. We want to start a campus one in Saudi Arabia, another in Egypt, because those countries are willing to support us fully. They will build the campuses for us. And that proposal with the ministry is still pending. But I think some of these bold steps we need to do now. IITs, just being in one place and nothing else, and expecting that the world will get to know us and suddenly rank us ahead of all the known names kind of a thing is not going to happen. So we have to develop that international footprint, which is very important for India if you go by this. And of course, I have said that. So having told you this now, if you look at any institution, there are 3 things that we are supposed to be doing. The first is, of course, education. That is what we are very good at. And the second is the knowledge generation, the R&D. And so the first 2 we do pretty well. You have seen even in the rankings. It's also a scalable model. I keep telling anybody who listens to me, the research part of it, in particularly good institutions, you give us more money, we will write more papers. I think that's not a big deal, right? Many of you I have been talking to, you are all struggling for funds. But if you are given better facilities and more funds, you would have written great papers. I think that is a scalable model. India just needs to invest more in science and technology so we can actually do more research and all of that. So and education anyway, IITs are known for the quality of education that we impart. So I'm not worried about that. The biggest thing is the innovation. That innovation is what is innovation? To me, innovation, there can be any number of definitions. Innovation is value that you generate for your research. I think you have done papers. What is the value of that research to the society? That translational value, that is what is innovation. So if somebody is using the technology that you have developed, that is innovation. So until that time, it just is knowledge that is available. But if somebody makes use of that knowledge and does something which benefits the society, then it becomes innovation. And so therefore, this is something that we need to be doing more and more. And here is where we are actually pretty weak in a way. What do we need to do, in order to address that problem? My biggest thing is that the fundamental problem we need to solve is how do you choose problems in academia today, right? Who gives us the problems? Most of the problems, if you look at any institution, start with library. When a PhD student comes, what do we do? Go to library, do a literature review. All our research projects start with the literature review as the first chapter, right? And then the student reads, I am also a researcher. I have 50 PhD students. So we all know the game, right? I mean, student goes to library, says, this is done, this is done, this is done, but this is not done. So this parameter is not varied. This is not studied. So you do that and then you write papers. So that is the kind of a research which mostly happens. So most of that research which starts in library ends up in library. It doesn't see any other thing because you are filling those gaps kind of a thing, and which is good. Somebody has to do that. There is nothing wrong in that. So, but if everybody is doing just this, that's not going to work. But if these problems, for example, instead of picking problems from a library, let's say you pick a problem by observing issues in the society, right? And these could be immersion programs. Let's say some of our faculty and students go and spend time in Rishik in the AIMS, or spend time in a rural area, spend time in an industry, observe them very closely, find out what are they doing, what can be done better, pick it up as a research problem, come to the institute and take it as a research problem and solve it. That could have been a very different kind of a thing. Also the humanities departments. Whether it is humanities department in IIT Delhi or humanities department in JNU, which is our neighbor, they all do the same thing. So there is no difference between humanities department in IIT Delhi or humanities department in JNU. So I keep telling them whenever I go to them that how can it be? It can't be. I mean, humanities department in IIT Delhi should have a different flavor when it comes to what they do compared to humanities department in JNU. But they are all trained in those places. They want to continue on the same kind of research. Nothing happens. So whereas the humanities departments, imagine in our institutions, understanding the societal problems, connecting with the engineering departments, and then giving them the right set of problems to work on could have been a game changer. And that is what we try today. At IIT Delhi, we started a grand challenge initiative, which starts with humanities department, because we saw that they are not connected with any department. They are on their own silos. And so we said, if you now connect with an engineering faculty member and form a group to work on a certain problem, which is what you believe is important for the country, institute will fund it. So we funded almost 5 to 6 crores of projects with the humanities department, and now they are connected with at least 30 faculty members in the engineering disciplines. Now they are beginning to come out of their comfort zones and start interacting with the engineers and look at the engineering as a way to solve some of these problems. So that's something that needs to happen. We also started recently rural internships. So many IIT Delhi students now can spend time in villages. I have seen this case that recently, when I was there in IIT, somebody called me from the US. So some Ivy League universities in the US identified some students, and they called me to say that, sir, we want to send these students, top universities, to a village in India which doesn't have electricity. So these students from MITs and Harvards want to go to a village in India where there is not even an electricity, understand how people live without electricity, and pick up some problems from that kind of a surrounding and work on those problems. So people in Ivy League universities in the US want to come to villages. Where do our students want to go? Our students want to go to Stanfords and Harvards for doing their internship. So this is something that again needs to change. So we said, can any student at IIT Delhi who wants to go to a village spend time in a village kind of a place? We will facilitate all that, and we will even provide some fellowship. At the end of it, they will write a report. They take up one of them as the problem. So that is something which we launched recently. GRIP, this is a grassroots innovation program. Here again, in IITs, we get students from all over the country. From Kashmir to Kanyakumari, you will have students, in our campuses. Now, when a student comes to our campus, the entire city, entire village, everywhere on the billboards, these students have made it big. They have also all come to IIT Roorkee or IIT Delhi and all of that. But what value does it generate to that local place? Nothing. Other than saying that my children have gone there, nothing, no purpose does it serve. So we said, can these students take up a problem that exists in their rural area, so the area they come from, use IIT resources to solve that problem? Because in every institute, there are a set of people from that area. They come together, identify, somewhere arsenic may be a problem in the village, somewhere some disease may be a problem. So they take up the problems of their region and use IIT resources to solve them, and then start a company or do whatever you want to subsequently. So that way, that particular place can say that, our children have not only gone there, but they have solved this problem in our place, kind of thing. So that is, we start to call it GRIP program, grassroots innovation program. Now we are connecting these students to their local problems. And similarly in the industry, of course, I don't have to tell you that, but we started a very interesting program. I will only talk about, of course, the professors of practice we started at IIT Delhi, which is doing very well now. Now, some of these professors of practice who have come from industries and joined us on the faculty, many of them don't even have a PhD. But I can tell you, they have transformed the entire department. If you get a good top industry person to come and join you as a professor, that person brings so much of energy, so many ideas, so many contacts, so many networks that, these people are able to transform the entire department there. This is something, that has made a big difference. But this is a program, FIRE, which I am very passionate about, because we started it about 2.5 years ago. FIRE stands for Faculty Innovation, Faculty Innovation and Research-Driven Entrepreneurship. So we are trying to turn our faculty into entrepreneurs. Why will it happen? Why would a faculty member suddenly become an entrepreneur? And so that is where we are now doing it as a structured program. At IIT Delhi, if a faculty member says, I want to start a company, of course, the person needs to have patents and research, would have done enough research and all that. IIT gives a 50 lakh rupees as a grant. So we give 50 lakh rupee grant to that faculty member. And we also give 1 year sabbatical. Now faculty members at IIT Delhi can take a sabbatical to start a company. And if that idea is progressing well, they can take 2 years of leave, the lean, and then that they can combine with the sabbatical. With the help of board, we have modified the rules now. So a faculty member can take 3 years of full leave, get 50 lakh rupee grant, and get access to all the facilities. And in that time, if that faculty member starts a company and then, becomes an entrepreneur, that's good for the institute. So we are trying to convert faculty into entrepreneurs, because even faculty become entrepreneurs, then the PhD students will do the same, and then the whole innovation ecosystem in the institute will grow. So that's one thing which is now picking up very well in some of the departments at IIT Delhi. Now every 5th faculty member has a startup of his or her own, and some of these startups are already becoming very very popular now. So every fifth faculty member has a startup. I think that is a kind of a ratio. It hasn't happened across all departments, but some departments it has already happened because they have made use of this program. And I want to see 20% of our faculty, 1 in 5, to have their own startups, because we have been waiting for an industry to come and take our technology and do something. It hasn't happened for 60 years. I don't know when that will happen. So startups is good avenue for us to put out our technologies into the society. And that to me, because I have done that myself, and I know that that works. If I did not wait for some industry to come and take my technology, I started my own companies, and my PhD students are running them. They are able to provide more jobs to more PhDs, and I think that process needs to scale up. And finally, the interactions with the strategic agencies. This again, about 3.5 years ago, I went to DRDO and I spoke with the chairman at that time of DRDO. I said, can we do something together? Being in Delhi, all these are easy to do. So we said, can we create this center? So we created a joint advanced technology center at IIT Delhi. Now today they are funding 270 crore worth projects at IIT Delhi. Every, about 100 faculty members, 150 graduate students are working on DRDO defined problems with a total funding of 270 crores. And now that project is going very well. In 3.5 years now, in fact, in the next 1 month, we will be able to launch, some major technologies. I have recently met with the defense minister and I requested him to launch some of these products and all that. These things should have happened 20 years ago. And if DRDO, approached IITs, engaged them closely, we could have done a lot of things for our, Indian defense, but that never happened. They were all importing technologies. We were exporting our knowledge. So that was what was happening. I think that is something that is now changing. And similar things we did with ISRO. We created an ISRO cell. There are at least a dozen projects now with ISRO. This is something that needs to happen. I think our strategic agencies need to connect with our academic institutions more. So this is a fundamental thing. If you change, a lot of things will actually become better in the academic institutions. There are 5 key technology platforms. I think I have another, how much time? 40 minutes? Yeah. So I talk about these 5 key technology platforms. I call them 5 T's. What are these 5 T's? The first is information technology. India is a global leader. In fact, if you want to, get that perspective, Saudi Arabia exported 133.6 billion US dollars worth of crude oil in 2019. India's IT exports in 2019 were 137 billion US dollars. So we are a knowledge economy. I mean, what Saudi Arabia is able to export as fossil fuel is what we are able to export as our knowledge. So India should be proud of that fact. And we are already a global player when it comes to IT. The biotechnology, we are again a global player. The COVID has shown that. But even otherwise, 40% of generic drugs in the US, 25% of all medicines sold in the UK over the counter are all manufactured in India. So India biotechnology again is a global player. The third is the nanotechnology. In nanotechnology, India started nano programs way back in 2012, 2013. 2002, 2003 during Abdul Kalam when he was the president. And India is currently ranked 3rd in the world when it comes to nanotechnology knowledge, the research papers. But I think this is where the translation needs to happen. The knowledge needs to become wealth now. So that translation is pending to happen in nanotechnology. The fourth is the cognitive technology. If you look at cognitive technology, in terms of the citations, India is actually ranked 5th in the world. But where does AI ML kind of research happens today? In computer science departments. All of us know that our computer science departments attract the best talent, right? They are some of the finest brains in the department. They don't write enough papers. They don't have enough PhD students. But whatever papers they write, they publish them in the topmost journals and conferences. All those papers are also very highly cited. So no wonder that if you take the citations per paper as a metric, IITs, India is ranked at the 5th position. But if you leave AI ML to computer science departments, I can tell you nothing will happen. Because for anybody other than a computer scientist, nobody can actually get into computer science departments. I don't know how it is here, but their entrance tests are so tough and rigid that a biologist wanting to get into computer science will never happen. How did, for example, EE develop in this country? EE developed, for example, how did even computer science develop in this country? Computer science developed because computer science departments came out of EE. right? Way back in, it happened in all our institutions. Computer science departments got separated from EE, became individual entities, and then they grew. Now computer science has become so good, and IT and all of that prospered. So, but the same thing needs to happen for AI and ML, to grow in this country, because being in computer science, they will only do core algorithms. That is what they will do. But then applications need to happen in almost diverse domain, in atmosphere to biotechnology. Everywhere you need AI, ML. And how will these guys ever have access to the computer scientists? That won't happen. So therefore, I think at IIT Delhi, we started a school of AI. In IIT Roorkee, I know we started a center for AI. And now, I think there we are recruiting people who work in AI, ML areas with diverse backgrounds, focus more on applications. The algorithms kind of work might still happen in CSE, but these schools and centers of AI will develop more applications and connect with all other disciplines and all of that. So I think that's what needs to happen, and that's already happening in all our top institutions, and I'm happy about it. And finally, it's the quantum technology. I think this is where we have a strong tradition of basic science. Chemistry, physics, maths are very highly developed in this country. So quantum, we need to take up. There is nothing much happening in quantum today. You just have some pockets of excellence here and there. But I think as a national program, already government of India has announced $1 billion for quantum, $1 billion for cognitive technology. So I think with this funding, we need to scale up these activities. So to me, these are the 5 T's that need to happen in this country, and this is what I see as the future. And to me also, IITs need to provide unique solutions. Our role is not indigenization. I think something is available. If you look at ISRO, DRDO, DAE, they have done very well. We are all proud of ISRO and all of that. But all of these technologies are indigenizing something which is available elsewhere. Somebody has flown a satellite at a much higher cost. We have done that at 1/10 the cost. It is innovation, very good. But that's all indigenizing something which is available elsewhere. When we take up a project, when IITs get into that, it has to be unique. We should not be, if everybody is indigenizing, then nobody is developing anything new. So I think in IITs, I strongly feel that we have the capability to do all of that. I think some of the finest brains, finest students, they all come to IITs. And if we are not able to compete with the rest of the world in developing unique solutions, then this country has no future really. So we have to take it up. And so nanotechnology is the area that I come from. I will only take about 10 minutes. I will not spend too much of time on that. But one thing which needs to change is our patenting. This patenting is in nanotechnology, which is one area that I am following very closely. I told you that India is ranked 3rd in the world. So you look at it now. So India, after China, this many papers China wrote in 2019. US wrote this many papers. India wrote this many papers. So we are 3rd in the world. But where do we fall? Where are we in terms of so in global rank in publications? We are 3rd. How many patents have we filed in nanotechnology? In 2019, India filed 54 patents. US filed 4,666 patents. China filed 825 patents. Now, our comparison is with US. China putting more money, writing more papers. But US is where all the knowledge happens. That is the innovation capital of the world. So now, if you see, for every 5 papers, they are actually filing a patent. But in India, if you look at the ratio, for every 300 papers, we are filing 1 patent. That is the basic difference between an innovation-led economy and and our Indian institution. So we need to file more patents. So we should not let out the IP so easily, because out of these patents will come startups, out of these patents will come products and all of that. If you are not filing enough patents, there is no scope ever to start any company. If you ever want to start a company, you have to start protecting your IP very early on, because otherwise it will be too late and somebody will come and sue you. So therefore, this is something that we need to do. And at IIT Delhi, for example, before 2015, IIT Delhi filed 20 patents. And now in 2020, we have filed about 160 patents. So that is a kind of a growth that needs to happen in all our institutions. So now, but what was the challenge? You want to file a patent. The patent office takes 6 months. The PhD student needs to graduate. Nobody is willing to wait. Why would a PhD student wait? Because a patent needs to be filed. So that was the basic problem. We addressed it at IIT Delhi. I told the group that 1 month. 1 month is what it should take, from converting your paper to a patent. So you write your paper, wherever you want to submit, you write that paper, give it to this agency. At IIT Delhi, it is FITT. So we give it to FITT, and FITT uses those lawyers, translates that patent without the involvement of PIs and all of them, because they don't know how to write a patent. So now, but they only know how to write papers. So now that paper to patent draft they make, consult the PIs and all that, file that patent, and within a month now they give the go ahead to the PI, saying that now you can publish your paper. So once we just fix that process, I can tell you that patents went from 20 to 200. Now, in fact, during this year, we could have filed 200 patents. Despite COVID, we still filed 160 patents. So I think that needs to happen. Once you fix that, and out of now, those patents are coming startups, because when somebody wants to start a company, no venture capitalist, no investor will even touch the company with a barge pole, if you don't have the IP protected for what you are trying to develop. So that needs to actually happen. So I will not, the nanotechnology, you all know what nanotechnology is, and I'll also not worry too much about it. But this is, I use this slide to show that there are 6 senses that we have, and if you look at any mobile phone, 4 out of these 6 senses are already captured in the mobile phone. This is a sense that we don't usually talk about. The sight, hearing, touch, anyway are there in the mobile phones, but proprioception is something which is like the GPS in the brain, that gives you a sense of location and all of that. So that is already there in the mobile phone. The 2 sensors which are not there in a mobile phone are the smell sensors and the taste sensors. So electronic nose, imagine a phone which can smell, imagine a phone which can taste, because we humans use it for a variety of purposes. So one of the projects I took up in 2005, 2006 timeframe was to develop an electronic nose. That was my project, which was again funded by the Principal Scientific Advisor's Office, and because of some security agencies which approached us. The sensors is a very good area to focus. Many of you should start looking at it as a very, as an area of research now. If you look at it, look at the sensors, everybody is talking of IoT and all that. Any forecast you see, people are talking of trillion sensor vision. The entire semiconductor market today is about $400 billion, $500 billion. Just the sensors market, they are saying, will be $1 trillion in the near future, because you need to measure something is the first thing that needs to be done before you develop any IoT around that and all that. And I think developing these sensor platforms, sensor chips is a very interesting kind of an area. So one of the projects, I'll also skip that since I have not time, but this was a slide I used to show you that there are enough problems in this country. If you want to pick up a problem, you don't have to actually go to library. And I keep saying that all the world's problems are in India. Show me one problem that is not there in somewhere and not available in India. Go to some pocket somewhere, India will find that problem, because we are like a continent. We are not like a country. So therefore, I think there are so many problems, and I say, for example, the pedagogy or agriculture, huge innovations are required. Healthcare is a big concern. Some of these numbers are mind-boggling. Every year, just because of healthcare expenditure, 22 million people, 2.2 crore people go below the poverty line. Why it happens? Somebody in a rural area is sick with something, fallen ill. The entire family comes to big cities for treatment. In the process, the whole family goes below the poverty line. And that number is a mind-boggling 2.2 crore people every year. So they need now a lot of technologies. Even in a place like Delhi, everything is in South Delhi and those places. You just go 20 kilometers away from Delhi, there is nothing. Everybody needs to come to again Delhi for getting that done. So this is one place where a lot of innovation can happen. Security a problem, energy. We have all seen the COP26 summit, and India has made huge targets for itself. All of that will require huge innovation. If you are going to develop 500 gigawatts of renewable power, connecting that to the grid instability, I can tell you the power electronics people need to start worrying about. Right now, they are all so tiny amounts of power you are connecting to the grid. You are not seeing that, but the grid instability, if everybody starts connecting to the grid and all that, is going to be a major issue. The water crisis, India doesn't have enough water, and anything that saves water is again a very big kind of a requirement. And the world is not a very rich place. When you think of innovation, seeing everybody in our campuses using, particularly faculty and us using iPhones, everybody thinks everybody is rich. But the world is actually not a rich place. This is a world atlas. You actually see that half of the world, over 3 billion people, live on less than $2.50 per day. That's all the money half of the population in the world actually make. And then 80% of humanity makes less than $10 a day. So therefore, you need to develop technologies which are affordable. That's the point. So I started working on some of these problems. This came from medical doctors. This came from security agencies through PSA. This came from the farmers. Our interaction with the ICAR and the farmers. So some of these is what I started working as projects. Of course, as many of you know, I work on the CMOS technologies. I'm not presenting any of that. In the next 5 minutes, I'll just show you. We wanted to develop this low-cost cardiac diagnostic system and to detect some of these proteins in the blood. So we formed a group at IIT Bombay consisting of people from biology department and everyone. And the idea was to predict heart attacks. If you have a chest pain, with least intervention, with simple blood test, can you rule out that chest pain as because of the heart related problem? That is often a big challenge, because if you have a chest pain, you go to the hospital and then the doctors do a lot of tests there, finally hand over a bill of 1 lakh rupees, but say that you don't have any problem of heart, you don't have any heart problem, but that bill can cause you a heart attack. So things are actually that bad in many 5-star hospitals near Delhi. Just to rule out that chest pain is not because of any heart related problem can cost up to a lakh of rupees. And we said, can we do that using some low cost technology? It's a simple 100 rupee kind of a test by detecting some of these proteins in the blood. When the heart muscles start to die, which can trigger a heart attack, and that is when they release certain proteins. These are all like the troponin, myoglobin, CKMB kind of a thing. So that is when we started to look at a complete system, because we said, papers will happen because there are PhD students, but can we develop a complete system? So then we made it into different block boxes, different blocks, and we started working on different things. And in fact, some of these people who worked on these individual blocks, they found the project so interesting and they continued on that research. For example, it required a lot of microfluidics, these reactors and all of that. Now, I involved Amit Agarwal. He was not doing anything like that in the mechanical department at IIT Bombay, but we introduced him to microfluidics because we wanted to separate plasma from the blood on the chip itself. Otherwise, somebody comes with chest pain, you have blood available, but to convert that blood into a plasma, if you are saying, centrifuge and all that, that will not work. So the chip itself should be able to isolate plasma from the blood. And for that, you need to do filtration on the chip. So we approached mechanical department because Amit at that time was working on microfluidics, but nothing to do with blood. And he got interested in this project, and now he actually got his Bhatnagar prize on the blood plasma separation, and he has his own company, and he's now selling some of these technologies. So and similar things have happened in Anil Kumar in chemistry department and a few others, Soumya Mukherjee in biology. They've all got introduced to this problem by working on individual blocks, but that became their major research focus, and they have made their careers using that kind of thing. I think once you put that whole system as a focus, right, to develop the complete prototype or the product, I can tell you automatically multiple departments will become involved, because they are all driven by that passion to develop that whole thing. So at the institute level, you need such projects. There are 4 or 5 such projects which require multiple departments to come together and to develop the complete product at the end of the day. So we, in my group, we started working on the cantilevers thing. I think all this is anyway published, and so we developed a lot of interesting science behind that, developed the electronics, and then we finally developed the prototype. So this was the first system that we developed. This is actually a working prototype. You can put a drop of blood and it can detect your cardiac markers. So this is that is when we started this company, Nanosniff Technologies. And then so we then moved on to developing a complete solution for the ECG and other things, the complete cardiac kind of a thing. Then we started working on the explosive detector. Platform is similar, the same platform, but you use it now for another application. So this was a project that came from security agencies. So we take these cantilevers, coat it with these receptors, which bind to vapors of explosive. When the binding happens selectively, then the cantilever deflects. Because these are all piezo-resistive cantilevers, the deflection is what we measure as an electronic signal. The principle is very simple. The entire IP is what are the coatings that you have which bind selectively to vapors of explosive. Because the explosives are basically, carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen. There is not much of a difference between shoe polish and the explosive molecule, because they all contain the same elements. But then the selectivity, therefore, is the $1 billion problem. How do you make sure that whatever coating you have, that binds only to vapors of explosive and to nothing else? So we innovated. The chemistry department came to our rescue. We wrote lots of papers. many good papers in good journals, and things were going fine. But we also developed this electronic nose platform, have multiple sensors coated with different coatings here, and then when explosive comes in contact, each sensor will respond differently because they have different coatings. That response is what we record and then use a pattern recognition and all of that. So we developed this as a prototype, did a lot of chemistry. This is a working prototype of XNIF, an explosive vapor phase detector based on electronic nose platform. So we did a lot of pattern recognition algorithms. All these papers, my webpage will have hybrid pattern recognition for rapid explosive sensing. So all these papers are there. And then this is how they can replace a sniffer dog. That was the whole kind of an idea. And then we also started working on a NEMS platform, to which this is again published here. This goes as multifunctional CMOS compatible NEMS relays for vapor phase explosive detection. A principle which is similar to that is what we subsequently developed, which worked fine. And finally, we were able to develop a product out of this. And so this is how it actually looks. And the previous HRD minister launched it nationwide as a product. Now it's available on JUMP in government e-marketplace. And this particular technology is the world's first. It is patented. It can detect explosives in 10 seconds. And now we are exporting this. Many airports are also buying this. And many investors have invested in this technology. It costs 1/5 the cost of what you see at the airports. The maintenance costs are also low and all of that. But it took us almost 10 years, from the concept to a final product in the market. Took us full 10 years actually. So, and then we started moving into an IoT kind of a thing. We were able to miniaturize this, and then idea is to put them as electronic sensors, electronic nose platforms in buses and trains kind of a thing. And one of the problems one of my PhD students worked on is to self-power, develop these self-powered sensor networks for explosive detection. And for buses and trains, can we use piezoelectrics, the vibration energy harvesting available in buses and trains, convert those vibrations into electric energy and drive these sensors. And that is when we started working on the piezoelectrics. So one led to the other, and then we developed now some very interesting piezoelectric materials, which are all lead-free kind of materials. And we wrote many good papers. These are all in the microscopic origin of a lead-free halide, ACS energy letters we published. So lots of such papers came in, but the problem statement was clear. Problem statement was to develop an explosive detector, which is unique, which is low cost, which can be deployed everywhere. And so we have now the product. And for the past 4 years, my interests have shifted to agriculture, because I noticed that agriculture is a ripe area for any innovation. So now I have projects from. So I think the problems related to agriculture, you all know. I won't get into that. And but one of the things Government of India has done is distribute these soil health cards. This is how a soil health card looks like. But where are you going to find sensors to detect all of these? Where would a farmer go to get these tests done? I think these are all government labs and they are expensive, time consuming. It's not happening. So we said, can we develop sensors for these micro and macronutrients? That was a project statement. And then because by that time I had moved to IIT Delhi, so we developed a collaborative project between Bombay and Delhi, because I still have most of my collaborators in Bombay. And then we started working on it. So we said we will develop 4 prototypes: volatile tagging, pathogen detection, moisture, pH, salinity, micro and macronutrients. But in all these cases, the end goal is to develop the complete product. So we did that, and then so some of these are now in fact, I started this company in about 2 years ago, Soil Sense. So this is a company which has taken some of these technologies. Now they are already in the market with the soil moisture sensors and complete weather stations. And we also have NPK sensors using electrochemistry kind of principles. And so now this company is already doing pretty well. Now they have invested, received quite a bit of funding from various agencies, and they are now testing it for multiple crop cycles. And so I think that is how the research became. The papers became prototypes became products, and 2 startups. Both the startups are doing pretty well now. In fact, NanoSniff is no longer a startup now; it's a full company. They have moved to the tech park at IIT Bombay, and so the explosive detector is in the market. The cardiac thing, anything with healthcare takes time. So this is something which is on the back burner right now. But explosive detector is now making a lot of waves, and I'm confident that will become a big product now. And so similarly, even the soil sense is also doing very well. And so this is a journey. So, therefore, when you look at innovation, the top-down product-oriented approach is the key. So you need to find a problem and then work towards developing the complete product. The platform development is where you can write papers. Very often people say, if I work on products, how do I write papers? That's actually a myth. I have written, as you have seen in my bio, 480 papers. All of that happened because I worked on a problem, but the platform is where you can write lots of papers, and you can also file patents. I have 50 patents, out of all of these technologies, because I knew that I will one day start a company. Therefore, I started protecting IP very early on. Before 2005, I had no patents, but only starting from 2005 onwards, once I realized that these problems can result in products and companies, I then started to become very conscious of that, and so that is what can happen. So you need to protect IP as early as possible. You need to mature it in the academic environment, because very thing, we are in a hurry to start companies. I did that for my nanosync. I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but that did not work. After we started company, it took them full 8 to 9 years to get the product out into the market. Because these are all things which nobody has done. There is no MEMS-based explosive detector in the world. So therefore, it takes time. And that is best done in academic kind of a place rather than in a startup, because funding money is always difficult in a startup. So our places are great for that. So this is one thing which is important. But that I corrected for the soil sense. In soil sense, we decided that the day we start a company, 6 months from now, we should be earning revenues. So we did everything that is required in IIT itself. Then we started a company, and then within 6 months, we had a web page. People can buy these systems and place orders and all that. I think that is an approach that works very well in our kind of a system, because for this deep technology innovation, the VCs are not still there. They are not funding. The investors are not very keen to fund, because long lead times, a lot of uncertainties. They are still happy with the e-commerce and those kind of things. So, but there are government schemes which are available for supporting these, which we should make use of. And so then the professors and students alone cannot build a company. I think that I have realized now. You need to have the right kind of a team. So you need to get into the system. But IITs, we have alumni. You can actually make use of. Many of these alumni have done pretty well. I think Alumni Connect can also help you to get that right advice and right kind of a team formation. So that is also good for IIT. And I think it's again, very often we start fighting with each other. The moment you initially everything works fine, but once there is some money, then why should he have less equity? Why should she have more equity? All kinds of things. So I think proper agreement so that the team remains a team even all through, and that's very important. So you need to involve students in the enterprise. I think without students, there is no institution. I think our role is to build the next generation. So we are all only faculty kind of companies. I don't believe it. So our PhD students, or any student for that matter, need to be part of that team. And then, while you are continuing your job, they are the people who run it. So my companies now, I don't do anything. They are on their own and run by my ex-PhD students, and they have recruited many people, and things are fine. So I think we need to involve them. And finally, we need to look for areas where there is a great domestic market demand. I think India is that way, 1.3 billion people, and all these, the big companies, multinationals, are scratching the surface. Their technologies are reaching maybe 100 million of Indian population, but there are 1.2 billion people at the bottom of that pyramid. Their requirements are different, their needs are different. Once you identify a good problem, I think the solutions can be found. I think that is very important. So I think, therefore I say that India is equal to opportunities. R&D in academic institutions, we don't need to follow this, what happens there. We should be able to innovate in areas where there is a domestic demand. The local R&D for product development is essential to keep the costs low. It's very important. It's possible to do high quality research now, good facilities. And so there are multiple government of India initiatives for startups too. And so I always say that the creativity in our higher education sector is as important as literacy at the grassroots level. So that needs to happen. And I think that our institutions need to become like the idea factories. What are these idea factories? My biggest challenge with IITs is we are very homogeneous. Everybody, all faculty profile, if you look at, exactly looks like the similar thing. You would have done your BTech in some certain kind of institutions, PhD in certain kind of institutions. So it's the standard template is what we have. Our students, all of them come through the same examination. Therefore, the diversity is lost right now. So to become idea factories, we need to have people with different cultural backgrounds. We need lots of international students or people who think differently from our kind of thinking. People with different disciplinary training. These are all the schemes that we did at IIT Delhi. Most of the new departments are all multidisciplinary. Anybody with any background can join them. And this is again one interesting scheme I launched at IIT Delhi, which has been very successful. We call it FIRP, Faculty, Interdisciplinary Research Program. I think what we did was, when I joined IIT Delhi, nobody was collaborating with anyone. Everybody was doing well, but they were only, looking at their own research areas. We said if any faculty member collaborates with anybody outside their department, right, institute gives them a seed grant of 5 lakhs to each of them for 2 years, meaning institute spends about 10, 20 lakhs on each of these people, 5 lakhs, 1 year, 5 lakhs another year. And but the condition is that after 2 years, you should go out based on the work that you have done for 2 years to get external funding. So your success of project is measured depending on the extramural grants that you have brought to the institute. If you have not done that, then the project is seen as a not successful, and then you will become ineligible for any future kind of funding scheme. We actually funded about we extended it to AIIMS and other institutions, but we funded about 14 crores in the last 4 years. We funded 14 crore of projects in the FIRP scheme, to bring people together. About 100 people participated in that. Now, when I recently looked at what is the money that has come in, about 14 crores of funding investment from institute, we received about 260 crores of money from external agencies. Because these people worked with each other, worked on new ideas, and then went out and wrote proposals. And many of these proposals got funded. Because a biologist working with electrical engineer, a computer scientist working with a humanities engineer, the projects will have a different flavor. And that has now brought in almost 260 crores of external funding to the institute. So IIT Delhi was doing 70 to 80 crores per year in 2015-16. Now we are doing anywhere from 300 crores to 500 crores of research per year. It has happened because people are collaborating with each other. I always say that if you solve the problem of bringing people together, they will solve all your other problems. I think the biggest challenge is to bring people together. For that, you need to incentivize. If we just preach saying that you should do multidisciplinary research, it's not going to happen. So I think a little bit of support, through a funded scheme, I realize is very important. And faculty don't expect much. 5 lakhs is enough for people to come together and work with each other. But that has really worked wonders for IIT Delhi. And after seeing the success of it in the institute, we started MFIRP, multi-institutional FIRP. Now we are tied up with all these institutes. Now they fund their faculty, AIIMS funds their faculty, we fund our faculty, exactly the same model. After 2 years, you have to go out and get support. So the institute doesn't have infinite resources, but we can only see institute funding as a seed funding. And so that has worked very well. And similarly, when I say unlike minds, people with different attitudes. So here again, we have done a lot of things which are working. And once you bring these people, unlike minds together, generate ideas, you need to be able to nurture them and take it to the startup route. I think that is very important. And here again, that FIRE scheme is helping us. We created a PhD incubator for our PhD students, And IIT Delhi has lots of alumni among the startups. Why? Because IIT Delhi, every third student will have Agarwal, Gupta, Bansal, Garg. These are all people. Usually people who come to IIT Delhi are all from the business communities. And they crack the JEE and all these exams, come to IIT. After graduation, they again want to go back to, because that's in their blood and DNA. So they want to go back and start, their own businesses. There are 22 IIT Delhi founders, alumni who have created unicorns, meaning billion-dollar kind of value startups, 22 of them. And so we said that, but most of them would have got ideas in the hostels in IIT, but they started their companies outside after their graduation. Just imagine if IIT had taken 5% equity in those companies in Flipkart for some 10 lakh rupees, we would be sitting on $1 billion right now. But we never captured them when those ideas were their very startup stage. So we created the student startup action plan. Any student who has an idea, right? Nothing is proven, nothing. But student is excited, passionate, and thinks of an idea. Institute immediately invests some money into that idea, and in return for some equity, 1%, 2%, whatever equity. Students are very smart now. They don't give away any equity so easily. So that, but you take some equity in that and start fund them, whatever initial funding, hoping that one day some of them will become Flipkarts and Snapdeals and Policy Bazaars. All of them are really companies. So this is what we are doing. We are investing into the future that way. And so these are some of the things. So this is IIT Delhi that way in the last 5 years, we have recruited lots of faculty, and that has given a major boost to over 500 patents we filed in the last 5 years, which is equivalent to last 55 years of total number of patents. So I think this is what has happened because of this approach of bringing people together. And so a lot of good things are now happening. Even during COVID time, a lot of great things have happened. Many technologies have come out. And I will skip this because I always feel that we should not be dependent on government. Our income, we need to diversify our income sources. I have a target of tuitions should be about 1/3, endowment should be 1/3, research and innovation should be 1/3. So that is the kind of a way we should diversify. And I have a lot of studies on that. Hopefully, I will publish it in some journal. But this is where I have different models for IITs to follow in terms of their financial resources. Right now, 90% comes from government. There is no fun in taking money from government, I can tell you, because it comes with lots of restrictions and rules and all of that. So we need to diversify our sources of income. And so this is how it should happen. In fact, I have actually studied all these universities and for their sources of income. If you look at it, this is the government line. And if you look at Caltech, Harvard, these are of course private universities. But the government universities in the US, look at that. There are so many colors here. So that is how they have been able to diversify, and government funds only 1/4 of it. That is something that needs to happen with IITs. We'll see our institutions, which are very, very different actually. So I have some of that thing on that, but I'll skip. This is my last slide. I think we need to become multidisciplinary. I think we should not be homogeneously distributed anymore. We should have all kinds of School of Public Policy at IIT Delhi and Center for Automotive Research and Department of Design. I know you have done many of these at IIT Roorkee. That was a long felt need. Just with engineering alone, you cannot solve any problem. You have to have multiple things to come together. We need to be locally engaged, but we need to be globally networked. Our joint PhD programs with universities abroad are doing very well. Having innovation is very important as one of the drivers. And then we need to become a demonstrator of conversion of knowledge and also a diversified financial structure. At IIT Delhi now, like Roorkee, we all are middle class people, right? We are happy seeing our money in the bank, earning 4% interest, and we don't want to spend it on anything. So that I don't believe in, because I keep telling my people 4% interest, what difference will it make? The inflation is actually more than 4%. Instead, you take out that money, invest it in the system. The system will return you much higher returns. So for example, we have now this year, we have taken out 10 crores of our money from FITT. They are investing it in startups, any startup. IIT Delhi will be an angel investor. So the 10 crores of money we are investing in any good idea, anywhere in the country, not necessarily just IIT Delhi. And then we want to see, those investments, if one of them becomes big, we would have, returned that, got the returns in 1,000 times. So that is what when I say diversified financial structure, it is also linked to innovation in a way. So we are now, IIT Delhi has a 10 crore fund to invest in startups, on good ideas. Of course, the student-centric and flexible out-of-class learning, those rural internships and other things. And our students also need to be given these leadership skills. The most sought after minor degree program at IIT Delhi is minor degree on entrepreneurship. That is the most demanding kind of a demanded sort of a program where students are taught how to write a business proposal and how to something about economics and all of that, which is very important. We need to give them the training now, even the leadership skills and all of that. In fact, this leadership skill, recently, I've already exceeded time, but one small story. So I recently was talking to, a big corporate MD, and which has strong Japanese collaborations. Apparently, a Japanese guy, remarked, looking at the company, that your Indians are so bright, so innovative, so good, and even one Indian can do research or output more than 5 Japanese kind of it. So one Indian is better than 5 Japanese. Had a lot of price. But in the same breath, he said, if I put 5 Indians together, their output is less than one Japanese kind of it. So that is our problem. So we are also individual centric. I think that is something that needs to change. A diverse set of faculty. I think this templated way of recruitments need to go. I think we need to have people with very diverse backgrounds come into our system and interact. And we need to become industrial R&D hubs and all that. But that needs to be more a collaborative model rather than a transactional model. I think this is what I believe IITs need to do. I know IIT Roorkee is already doing much of this, but overall, I see a bright future for IITs. I keep telling anybody who asks me that, look another 3 to 5 years, you will start seeing the presence of IITs in the society. Even during the COVID time, we have done great things. At IIT Delhi, we recently looked at it. The technologies developed at IIT Delhi touched 10 million people in the society. And that depth exists in our system, the potential exists in the system. We have never tapped that. Nobody came to us, to solve any problem. Nobody even expected us to solve any problem. Forget about task thinking and all of that. As a result, we never got to contribute to the, some of these issues. But once they realize the depth of, the potential that exists in our system, once we start exploiting it, because the best people are in these institutions and they can actually transform this country. And the startups that come out of institutions, I think startups are like the freedom fighters now. So the startup founders are our freedom fighters now. That's what one of the management guru once said, and which is true for India. They will transform this country. I think innovation is going to be very important. Education, research, we have done pretty well, and they also are scalable. But innovation is something that if we focus, IITs will be great places in the next decade or two. Thank you very much. I think I'll stop here.
Thank you so much, Professor Rao, for such an insightful and interesting talk. Thank you for sharing your experience and valuable views and so many innovative ideas which will definitely cater the ultimate goal of Atmanirbhar Bharat. So, for such a great contribution to our society, once again, let's have a huge round of applause. I think there's a lot to take away from today's talk for such a researchers of which are new to our field. So thank you so much, sir. I would like to invite Professor A.K. Chaturvedi to present a shawl and a memento as a token of appreciation to Professor Rao.
Best use of time. Someday you can keep it.
Thank you, sir. Now I'll request Professor Chaturvedi to address the gathering.
Thank you, Professor Rao, for delivering a very stimulating, inspiring, thought-provoking idea factory. So that was idea factory from his one slide. I think everyone will have some takeaway from this address. It is a collection of the experience that Professor Rao had for the last 20 years. So I'm sure that many students, faculty colleagues will pick up the threads from this address and carry it forward in their professional career. I'm very happy that the intent of these lecture series in every department is being fulfilled exactly the way it was envisioned. We wanted these lecture series in the departments to recognize the iconic figures that every department in University of Roorkee has. And no doubt, when you hear the biography of Professor A.K. Kamal, you feel so proud of the leaders who have been recognized both at the national and the international level to have lived on the same soil in the University of Roorkee and now IIT Roorkee. So it shows us our legacy. It shows
the kind of expectations that society has from us. We should be like, in fact, we should build on that foundation and be taller than the leaders that the University of Roorkee have produced. And the purpose was also that we bring people like Professor Rao to the campus and go back much better informed about IIT Roorkee. I'm sure when he goes back, his awareness and his knowledge about IIT Roorkee will be much better. So that would serve the purpose. And at the same time, we have a lot of things to learn from Professor Rao. So that purpose is also being fulfilled. So the goals of this lecture series in this edition have been completely fulfilled. And I will congratulate Professor Das Gupta for having steered it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Now I'd like to request Professor Das Gupta to propose the vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, all of you. That was indeed a nice lecture by Professor Rao, as usual. So I have the task of giving a vote of thanks. So let me thank Professor Rao initially for coming to Roorkee actually. In these COVID times, nobody likes to travel, but I sent a mail at evening at about midnight maybe, and I received a confirmation within 15 minutes. So you can understand the level of participation he has and the level of commitment to these things. So thank you, sir, for coming to Roorkee, and I hope your stay and travel has been good. Let me thank also Professor Chaturvedi. In spite of his busy schedule, he has been able to join this meeting and share his thoughts. I also like to thank all the HODs, deans, and the faculty colleagues, especially EC departmental faculty colleagues. We had a very good round of meeting in the morning, and we will be having these sets of meeting again post lunch. So I hope you will join that time. Let me thank EC department staff, IIT Roorkee Registrar Office, DD Office, ICC for the live web streaming, and I thank all the students, volunteers, EC students, PhD scholars who have come in large numbers to listen to this talk. I hope this talk is useful, and we hope that we will have such type of talks in subsequent editions also. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. This lecture series provides us with an opportunity to remember and thank Professor A.K. Kamal for his valuable contributions to our institute as well as to the field of science. So looking forward to the next lecture in this series in 2022. So with this, we have come to an end to today's event. So thank you everyone for being a wonderful audience. Everyone is requested to please stay outside, to assemble outside the stairs near Singhat Hall for a group photograph with Professor Rao.